today I'm here to wrap up about this novella that I read recently. It's titled The Window of the House Opposite, and I read the translated version by Larry Hartzell. The original text is written by Govinda Bahadur Malla, and the title in Nepali is Pallo Gharko Jhyal. From the very beginning of the first page, I fell in love with the book. It was very exciting and it made me curious. I wanted to know what was gonna happen next, and then I just flipped the pages and I went through it, and when I figured out that I was already at the end, and it was just a very fun read for me. And there's not many books that are able to do this to you, like that have the effect that you just cannot put it down and you must finish it because you want to find out the ending of it. And so I really liked it, and I'm kind of proud because of how good Nepali literature can be and how artistic and creative our own Nepali writers are in the field of literature. Let's look at some of the things about the author. Govinda Bahadur Malla was born in 1922 and he died in 2010. He was born in a upper-class Newar family and lived in Kathmandu. His father was Riddhi Bahadur Malla, and he was a editor and publisher of Sarada journal. So from his childhood, he was exposed to different literary writers and he made friends with them. Some of the literary figures that he was around with are B.P. Koirala, Bhavani Vikshu, Leknath Paudel, Siddhicharan Shrestha, and many more. But his main inspiration comes from B.P. Koirala and Bhavani Vikshu. They are also the writers that extensively write about psychosexual behavior in human beings and the mental things and mental conflicts that human beings have in their social life. The themes that he's most famous about is human psychology and social conditions. And he, even in this book, The Window of the House Opposite, he has focused mainly on the psychological aspect of the protagonist, and it is all based on the social situations and the cultural impact that she has in her life that makes her do things that she does, and then how she responds to different situations in her life. He's credited for presenting conflict at a micro level, and he's really good at that. He gives all these details and every thought of the person that is making them feel kind of sense of fear or something they're doing wrong, and everything that goes in their mind, that micro level of psychology, and that's what he presents in his book. The Window of the House Opposite was written in 1959 AD, and he is a icon of Nepali literature. And if at first he started with poetry, then moved on to fiction, and then to drama, and he's been honored with Trivivan Pragya Puraskar, Bedini Puraskar, and many other awards in his lifetime. The context of the book is all about the sociocultural realities and aspects of marriage and morality. These are the two things that clash in the book. Marriage, what it means to be devoted to your husband, what it means to be in a relationship with someone that you are committed with them, and what are the moral aspects that you must bind by, and what does the society want from you as a married person. And this is the things that is constantly in clash, and the protagonist of the book, a married female, she is very much in contradiction with how she feels and what is the expectations of the society that she lives in. This book depicts the lower middle class Newari family and how their economy plays a role in their lives, how their neighborhood plays a role in their lives. And this book is also situated during the political upheaval of the early 1950s. The political scenario was a lot unstable at that time because the Rana rule was finally coming to an end, and then King Tribhuvan was going to ascend the throne, and a lot of things about demonstrations and revolutions, rebellion was going on at that time. And there is also a part in the book where it's mentioned that people were having a kind of demonstrations out into the street and people were screaming and shouting slogans and all these things. The setting is the 1950s Nepali society depicted in this book. That's the time period. When we look at the place settings, we find two major places. First is Mystery's parents' home, and second is the Mystery's husband's home. First, Mystery starts in the parents' home with the story. That's how it begins. And she travels to her husband's home, and the story progresses. Then she's back in her parents' home, and the story ends there. The atmosphere or the weather seems to be always clear and sunny. There are many various descriptions of how the sunlight is always hitting on the edge of the roof of the building, and how the sunlight is striking on the window opposite the house. It's always sunny, and the mood is kind of very happy outside, but there's a lot of internal conflict in Mystery's mind. The novella begins with Mystery, who is currently living in her parents' home. It's been about a month, and she's just been in the house, and she feels like she belongs there. She's very comfortable in her house, and she's so happy that she doesn't have to do much work. She's enjoying her life, but there's something that torments her. There's a house opposite her house, and there's a window in the ground floor, and her neighbor calls over many guests every day. One of the guests that comes there to play cards is somebody she knows as a hoodlum. Somebody who is a stranger and she knows nothing about. But this man, he looks up to the window that she's watching him from, and then they just glance at each other, and then they smile back and forth, and their eyes always meet every day. She's obsessed with this thing. Like, she always wants to see him every day. And if we go to the page 2 in the book, she even knows that he exactly comes to the house at 3 or 4 o'clock. So she'll always be staying at her room and then looking out of the window at that time. Then she wonders if this is a sin, because she is a married woman, and in that society it is wrong for a married woman to look at another man who is not her husband. So she's conflicted in her mind, and she wants to stop that. She wants to feel free from this kind of bondage that she feels, and she does not want to feel guilty. So she tells herself that she should stop looking out of the window. She should try to resist that. But she can't do that. She's always curious about whether he will be there and he will be waiting for her, but then when she does not look down the window, he's going to be disappointed. And She has all these things made up in her mind. Then the story goes on, and she feels as if the next couple of days, whatever she does, she sees her husband's face, his eyes, everywhere she's in the house. It's a constant reminder of him that she's married to him. And she has some kind of a fear that she will let him down, and she should be loyal to her husband. And she wonders if there is something she can do about it, because she feels attracted towards the man, the strange man in the other house. She wants to escape. She feels like she's suffocating, and but then she tries to give herself reasons that she's not a sinner. Just by looking at somebody does not make you a sinner. She's pure in her heart, and then she has nobody to share all these things that she's feeling about. There's a sister-in-law in her house, there's mother and her father and two brothers, but she doesn't seem to be able to speak her mind to anybody. She cannot even share things with her own mother. She's very much alone in her own mind, thinking about these various thoughts and what she's gonna do next. Then mysterious things happen. The man who looks at her from the window, he sends a letter through a little girl, and Mystery takes the letter, and she's afraid that someone might see her reading the letter, so she goes around the house trying to find a place where she can be alone and open up the letter. But she feels like everything is alive in the house, and everything is watching her, even the pots and pans, and everything is like looking at her as if like she is doing something wrong. But after thinking whether she should open the letter or not, she goes to a storeroom, and then she rips it open and she reads the letters. And it said that the man loved her and he wanted her to reply back to him. And she wonders in her mind, like, what does it matter whether he loves her or not, or whether she loves him or not, because she's already married. There's nothing that can happen now. Then she feels very insecure in her mind. She feels like she's being drawn towards this new man, and she's feeling isolated from her husband. So before the time of her wanting to go back to her husband's house, she goes a couple of days earlier. And when she's there, she looks around and she meets her mother-in-law, and it's the same old story that the mother-in-law is not so much nice to her. She's always cruel, and she has these jealous eyes that she's looking at her, and then she kind of always repeats the same story about how she was a single mother and she raised a son, and she wants everything good to happen to her son, and she wants her daughter-in-law to take care of him. And these things go in her mind. Mystery is always thinking about those things, and this story just makes her think of her husband as a weak person and a helpless person, and that's the kind of image she has in her mind. And whenever she sees him, she pities him for how he was brought up in his childhood, and she pities him because he's so lean and thin, and because he never had a good childhood. And she thought that she's going to forget this strange man from that window, but she does not forget even when she's with her husband. And her husband just does not compare to the new man, because that man is so well dressed, he's so handsome, and he just looks someone who is fearless, because he wrote those letters, and he's a lot different person, more romantic than her husband is. Her husband is just focused on his work, and he does not give much time to her, and he does not even speak that much. He's silent most of the time, and he only speaks when he has to. So she just cannot get any conversation, and she wonders whether she should tell her husband about how she's feeling. But days go by, and it's surprising that the same man who was looking at her from the window in her mother's home, the same man appears in the street near her husband's house. It's as if like the man was following her around. So when she finds that out, she becomes very scared. Mystery thinks that he must be following me, and since she doesn't know much about him, and he does have a very bad reputation as well in the community, because people have no idea who he is. Then she's feeling unsafe in her own house. She brings up this conversation with her husband, but her husband dismisses it. She tells him, why don't you chase this man away? He's an outsider that is in our community. And her husband says that, no, I mean, like, wow, why would I do that? That would not be good to do such things. And because the husband is just clueless anyway, he does not know what is the reality. So Mystery thinks that her husband is not so capable anyway. He's a very coward. And then she's still thinking about that man, and she starts receiving more letters. The man sends the letters to other people, and another kid, this time a boy. Then the letter says that he's awaiting her reply. He wants her to write back to him whether she loves him or not. But she contemplates about that, like, but she won't. She knows that she won't write a letter, and then she should not write the letter. But the letters keep coming, and by the time like she receives the third letter, she's very frustrated about her life, and she wants to make this stop. She wants to get away from all of this. So she decides that she should go back to her mother's house and talk with her neighbor who knows this man, and tell her neighbor to tell the man to just leave her alone. So she goes back, but she just can't have the courage to do it. She spends more time thinking in her mind, going around, and she does not get things done. She extends her stay at the house, and there's a Shraddha ceremony that is gonna happen in couple of days, and she's there, and one of the servants, more like a helper that frequently comes to our house whenever some of the events happen, Golson, she tells Mystery that her master is wanting a reply from her, like, will she go or not? And Mystery thinks, like, what do you mean? Like, will I go or not? Where will I go? How can I go? And Golson tells her that you can just go if you're unhappy in your marriage. It's always better to go with somebody you love, or else you're just going to be unhappy all your life, and you're just going to suffer. Mystery thinks about that, and she says she does not give a reply. She wonders whether she should go or not, and she just tries to put it off. She just tries to deny those things. Then there is a part in the book where she finally knows about what the name of the stranger is. The name is Hiraman. So Hiraman one time comes to our house when everything is happening, like people are preparing for things and getting provisions and all these things for ceremony. He comes to our house sneakingly, and he enters the room she's in, and she's very shocked to see him, and she doesn't know, like, is this a dream or is this reality, and she just can't speak. She's speechless. He comes closer to her, and then he's breathing, and his hot breath falls on her skin, and she feels hypnotized and confused, and he says, will you come with me? And in page 83, Hiraman suddenly comes right where she's staying, in the room of her parents' house. So he comes in, and then he says, you didn't answer my letter. Mystery cannot speak. She wants to, but then she just cannot. No sound is coming from her lips, and so he says, what are you afraid of? And he's holding her arms, and then Mr. tries to escape from him, and she says, let go, let me go. And he says, no, I won't let go, not until you give me an answer. Will you go with me or not? But Mystery just cries, let me go, someone will come and see us, let me go. And Hiraman says, say I'll go. And she just doesn't know, she gets confused, and she said, okay, I'll go. Then he leaves. And then she thinks, did she really say she'll go? And she regrets saying that. And she thinks that maybe he's the one who said those words, but she remembers she's the one who said those. And then later Golson is the one who arranges their meeting and how they could escape together. So towards the end of the book, the Shraddha ceremony is happening, and everybody is there. Even her husband is supposed to be there. So she waits for him for a while, and then he's there, and she sees him, like he's in the dining room, and he's just eating his food. Then she looks at him the last time, and she is pity, and how helpless he is on himself. Then Golson tells her that everything is ready, you have to leave now, and she goes out into the street. And then, like it's a dream, she's gone. And that's how the book ends. The main characters in the book are Mystery, Hiraman, Haribhakta, and additional characters Seti, Ramesh, Golson, Ramon, and many other unnamed characters who are minor ones. So the main protagonist, Mystery. She's an married girl, and she's been married for 3 years, but she hasn't given birth yet. She's got immoral feelings towards a visitor of her neighbor, who is Hiraman. Hiraman comes to play cards in his friend's house, and whenever he does that, he sees Mystery looking at him from the window. So Mystery is somebody who wants to break free. It's like she's being caged. She feels suffocated in her house, and she feels even more suffocated in her husband's house. She does not have this comfortable feeling, and she does not feel like she's living a good life. And it must be because of the repressive society that she is in, and has desire for sexuality and material happiness. She's attracted towards Hiraman, all because of the appearance of what he has. He seems to be a rich person, and that's how she gets her attraction at first. And she thinks about how her husband does not reciprocate the affection, the kind of love she wants. When she's with her husband in the house, he is like somebody who does not even exist. She walks into a room, and it feels as if like he's not even there, even when he is, because he's always silent. And he's not romantic at all, which is a big deal for her, because she's a woman with a lot of passion in her. Then the next character is Hiraman. This guy, called Hoodlum in the major half of the book, until Mystery knows his name. He visits the house opposite in the ground floor, and there's a window. He's usually there to talk with his friends and play cards and just have fun, but he comes there regularly because he wants to look at Mystery, who usually stands at the window and looks down at him, and he just smiles and he's captivated by her. She's also a beautiful lady. And he's mysterious because nobody really knows much about him. Maybe Raman, his friend, does, but others don't know. And there's a rumor that he is a criminal, or he's not a good guy. He must be having a wife at his home, but then he's looking at other women's, and such kinds of rumors go around in the community. And he wears fancy clothes. He's always good looking. He's always thinking about his appearance and wearing really good clothes. And he is handsome. And he's also brave. And that is one of the qualities that also excites Mystery. Hiraman is a person who does not care what anybody else thinks. He has fallen in love with a married woman, and he does not care whether it is sinful or whether it is not accepted by the society. He just wants to get her, only if she wants him. He has a feeling that she might be feeling some things towards him, so he asks her whether she loves him and whether to give him a reply, and whether she wants to go with him. He thinks about those things because he feels a kind of connection looking at her and smiling at her. Then we have Haribhakta, and this is the name of Mystery's husband. He is devoted to his work, not so much towards his wife. He is much more aloof, and even though he's home most of the time, right after his work, he is just going over his work documents, and he does not really spend that much time with Mystery, in a loving way, and it builds up the frustration that Mystery has. She's emotionally unattached with her husband because of that. And he is closer to his mother. There's a kind of psychological fact right here. Mystery feels more like his mother than a wife, because Haribhakta has this childlike eyes, and he's looking at her in such a way that he's expecting something from his mother and stuff. So his bond with his mother is very strong, and he respects her because he knows that she really worked hard to raise him up as a single mom. And he has such kind of trust and faith upon Mystery that he does not show any kind of jealousy or suspiciousness. Even when Mystery mentions that the Hiraman is coming around the streets near their house just to look at her and trying to speak with her and all these things, Haribhakta feels a little bit of jealousy, but then immediately he is all cool about that, and he says, just be careful and you'll be fine, you don't have to be afraid or anything. And he's a very simple man, and he's serious all the time. He does not joke. Mystery wants to joke sometimes, he just wants some fun, but he does not joke at all. And Mystery thinks like, oh, he's such a boring man. He does not even joke in anything. He's a man of few words, he does not speak that much, and he's pitiful. That is the word that has been repeated a lot whenever he's mentioned in the book. Mystery feels a sort of pity towards him. because he's just too simple, he's too gullible, he does not know anything, he is just one-sided, and he does not try to find out what's going on, and he's just lost in his own world. Then he's spineless, he's a coward, he would never have the power of like bravery that Hiraman has. He's a man who is laid back, who is submerged into the society and can never think of coming out of that. Then you have minor characters who are Seti. Seti is a girl, a servant girl that Harivakta has kept in his house. And she is a very interesting character. The amazing thing was that Seti is a very little girl, and since she is so small and she's so young, she is not able to cook yet. But then she's already been married. So this society is where a person is very young and cannot cook yet, but then they've already been married off, and that is kind of very contradictory. I mean, that's irony in itself. It shows how the picture of how the society is. And then you have Ramesh, who is the younger brother of Misri, and he at the end of the book, he is a very good friend with Hiraman, because Hiraman buys him a movie ticket. And you have Golson, the helper who comes during certain events at the house, and she knows Hiraman, and she is an accomplice, you could say that, in making mystery, like figuring out about actually leaving her husband. Then you have Ramon, and the neighbor who is living in the house opposite, and a very good friend of Hiraman. Other characters are there, like Mistress' father, mother, older brother, sister-in-law's kids, and her mother-in-law. This book can be analyzed with some theoretical perspectives in the literary movements of the early 19th and 20th century. Psychoanalysis, a theory by Sigmund Freud, and then we have Naturalism, a literary movement in the late 19th century, and Realism in the mid 19th century, then Existentialism in the 20th century. So starting with Psychoanalysis by Sigmund Freud. This book is absolutely about the psychology of the character, what things go in her mind, and how she handles those things, or how she's like trying to find a way out, and so she thinks and thinks and thinks all about those things, and there's a problem that just occurs, and she's trying to get out of that. And we see how she feels about everything, what she thinks about everything. She's got some sort of judgment or some sort of viewpoint about every characters of the book. So the psychosexual development, one of the main things that Sigmund Freud talked about is how a child develops in the womb, and when he comes out, how the environment affects him, and how there is like various different stages that a child goes through, and feeling that he's got this connection, the bond with his mother, and then finds out there's a father who is there. That psychosexual development is mostly seen in the character of Harivakta, Mistress' husband. He still seems to be seeking for a mother even in his own wife. Because Sigmund Freud says that when a child develops up and he figures out that the mother is not his, but she belongs to the father, so in his life he's going to look for women who have similar traits with his mother, so that he can indirectly be with his mother, because being with his real mother is something that is immoral in this society. And so Haribhakta is the same way. He looks at his wife as if like she's his mother, and she would do everything for him, and he has this connection with his own mother too, and he would never go against her. And his psychosexual development is just limited to that. And then we have different defense mechanisms that is working in this book. Especially looking at Mystery's character, the defense mechanisms that she seems to portray in the book are, the first thing is displacement. So she has feelings about Hiraman, but then the third defense mechanism that is used by Mystery is the denial. She knows she's thinking of Hiraman more than she should, but she denies it. She says that no, it is because of him. He's the one who's trying to get close to me, and he's the one who started all these things. I'm innocent and all this. These are the phrases, this thinking that she uses to cover up her own actions, because she's also involved in it. She's very much invested in Hiraman, but she denies those things. She just denies her feelings towards him, almost until the end, when she's suddenly she gets a realization that it is true, that it has really grown up. That it is the desire that is not acceptable in society. It is the raw desire, the animalistic desire, the desire to do evil, the desire to do wrong things. And ego is the thing that balances in the middle. And then you have superego, which is the extreme form of morality, where you're only thinking about rational things, where you're only doing things that is super approved by the society. So here, Mystery is just thrust between these things. She sometimes falls under the id, and then she sometimes thinking about the superego, but then an ego is always trying to balance out her thoughts in the middle. Then you have dream condensation. This is a part of dream analysis by Freud, where he says that the dreams that we see are condensed into one image sometimes, because that image is much more harmless to us than the reality of what that is. So for example, Mystery, she dreams a lot of the times when she's sleeping, and the dream always turns into a single thing. She sees Hiraman and she sees Haribhakta, her husband, but those two characters merge into one, and it's condense everything into a single thing, so that she does not feel overwhelmed. She does not feel wrong to just think about Hiraman. So everything is condensed into one for her. This dream condensation is also a way to keep her from feeling or breaking down completely. Naturalism is a literary movement that was much popular in the late 19th century. It has several set of characteristics that we can find in it, but it is an outcome of Freudian psychoanalysis and Darwinism. So first characteristic of this movement is pessimism. And that's something that we can find in the book as well. Mystery is not an optimistic character. And most of the characters in the book are pessimist. Nobody's totally happy with how they are. Everybody seems to try to escape the life they're living and then just move through it quickly as they could. Mystery does not believe like things will get better because the decision she's about to make will impact everybody in her life. She knows that if she is running away with Hiraman, she's going to have to lose a lot. Her parents may disown her, and her husband is going to be very sad about it. So pessimism is driven through the book because it is somehow very dark as well. This story is not something that is very happy and where everything goes well, and there is not any element of humor or even anything like that. It's very serious and it's very dark. And so the next thing is determinism. Determinism is an idea in naturalism that is, there is all the events in a character's life are already predetermined and they don't have any power or choice to change that. So in the book, Mystery seems like this character who is already determined to be with Herman. So no matter how much she's trying to get away from it, to hide from him, he's always there. Everywhere she is, he's there. And in the end, she finally leaves her house to go with him. So it seems to be already determined, and she has no power to change the events that unfold there. And the next thing is detachment. Naturalism and detachment. All these characters, they somehow feel isolated towards each other. There is no bond that keeps them in having conversation and having this mutual understanding with each other. And then all of these characters in the book seem irrational, and especially we can say about Mystery. She has no idea the consequences, and she does not weigh in others' thinking, and she's just thinking about happiness, and that is irrational. And she finally does not make a decision where she would tell everybody. She's just trying to not do the right thing. How she handles the situation in the end, she does so how irrational she really is. So realism is another literary moment, and this is characterized by having a lot of details, and there's a lot of details in the book about the household and things, the food, how the room is set up, how the houses are and how the people are, their characteristics. Everything is like in minute details. So next thing is transparent language. So this is ordinary language. It's just very common language. It's very simple to understand, and there is nothing that is complex. Everything is just straightforward. Very similar to that means that this does not have any kind of fantastical element. There are no unicorns or dragons or anything that is not in real life. This is absolutely situated in the real scenario, the real society. And then you've got omniscient narrator. And the narrator of this book seems to know everything because he can enter the mind of Mystery and know what she's thinking and just narrate about those things. So it is omniscient, and the narrator knows everything about all of the characters. Existentialism is a moment that came during the time of Second World War. because of all this war and destruction and loss of humanity, you know, everything. Existentialism came as a opposition to the beauty of life or the meaning of life in such sense. It gives the feeling of meaningless and absurd life that there is, but it's not exactly very pessimistic, because no matter how meaningless life there is, existentialism still believes that life can go on just the way it is. So the first thing is individual existence. All the characters are for themselves, and that's what this means. And Mystery here, she tries to have individual existences. She thinks about herself before she thinks about others. Then you've got freedom of choice, which Mystery is trying to make, because she thinks, don't I have the choice to do what I want? What are the things I feel? Can't I try to, you know, think about those things, about what I want, and not just be bound by the society and norms and values. Then you have presentism, that is living at the moment, living at the present. So, and that's what it is, like existential element in the book. Mystery is living at the present. She has no obligations toward the future or the past. She wants the best for her current life. And the fourth thing is monotonous life, and some of the characters are really living that in the book. That one example would be Mystery's husband. He just has one life that is just goes on every day the same way. There is no surprises, nothing new, but he's going on and on and on that, and it seems sometimes very meaningless and empty. This is one of the quotes that I've taken out from the book, and I really like it. It says, "For one moment it seemed to Mystery that all had been a dream, but in the next moment it seemed that all was reality. After that, dream and reality played hide and seek all day, so that it seemed that he had drugged her." Line 11 to 15, page 85. This occurs after Ramon visits her, and then he touches her arms and he tells her whether she wants to go with him. And he tells her, "Tell me, I'll go, then only I'm gonna leave." So she falls into this stage of feeling like she's not sure what is reality and what is dream, and this kind of duality of feelings and thoughts that override the whole book at all times. The duality of love versus being a married woman, and the reality versus the dream, what's real, what's not, and the irrationality and the rationality, everything just plays together to create the confusion, to create this disturbance, to create this crisis that is ongoing in the mind of Mystery. And after all the events that happen and all the state of feeling like she doesn't know what she should do and she doesn't know who she should speak about, this is finally at peace in the end, and everything resolves down, and she finally makes a choice, and she chooses to go with Ramon and not stay with her husband. Thank you for watching this video. I do recommend this book, so make sure to check it out and go through it.